Hello, kidney warriors. James here from Dadvice TV, your online kidney health coach, and this is Dadvice TV Live. Now, tonight we are going to be talking about something really, really important. It is how to avoid dialysis. And it's important to know there's a lot of scams out there, things that me and Dr. Rosansky like to call the woo-woo. We're not talking about woo-woo. We're not saying take this vitamin, take this, do this. We're going to give you science-backed things that have been proven to help to slow the progression of kidney disease. So get your pen and paper ready so you can take lots of notes. And also, I want you guys to tell us in the comments, what are you doing to try and slow the progression of kidney disease? What did your doctors tell you to do? I know, I've heard all the stories. Drink more water. This seems to be the number one thing that we hear from our doctors. But if any of that give you actual real helpful stuff outside of that, drink more water, let us know in the comments. We want to know. And we're looking forward to taking your questions throughout the show. And remember, at the very end, we always save time and try to go through as many of these questions as we can and get answers. Now, let's go ahead and let's start moving towards our topic today. But before I bring on Dr. Rosansky, my co-host, I've got some great news about Dr. Rosansky's book. Now, you know, I absolutely love his book, Learn the Facts About Kidney Disease. This is the book for kidney patients. This book, in my opinion, if you get diagnosed with kidney disease, a doctor should say, hey, don't panic. Here's a book. It's easy to read. This is going to answer so many of your questions for you. It's going to help put you on the right track so that you may not go on dialysis. You definitely won't go on it too early. His book is now available as an audiobook. You can just sit back in your car when you're driving to work or going out someplace and listen to his book. He got an amazing guy to do the audio for it. It's so calming and easy to understand. You can get it from Amazon. It's on Audible. It's on iTunes. You can also get his ebook, the print version, or his audio one through Barnes & Noble, which is great. And I've got a link right there, go.dadvicetv.com/book. That will take you right to Amazon. Right there's his book, first thing on it. Click it and you can order whichever version you want. And you can even sign up if you haven't for the Amazon audiobook program, and they give you a certain number of them at no cost when you sign up. So that's a great way to kind of get started if you're looking for a way to take advantage of some of those programs out there. But let's go ahead and let me bring on Dr. Rosansky. And for all of you out there, it's really important to realize this is a real nephrologist. He's got tons of experience. What we're going to talk about is science-based, the real stuff. None of that fake woo-woo. And let me tell you, over the last couple weeks, I've been looking at a lot of other YouTube channels, and I cannot believe how much fake stuff, actual harmful stuff, is out there being pushed as helpful. All right, let me go ahead and bring on Dr. Rosansky. Oh, hold on, Doc. I don't have you assigned to the camera. Now, wait a minute. Did we just lose Dr. Rosansky? Oh, you won't believe this. So Dr. Rosansky's having some internet issues, and he just got disconnected right before that. So while he's reconnecting, and hopefully his internet's only down briefly, let me go ahead and see who all we got here. We got so many great people here today. Okay, here goes Dr. Rowe. Let me bring him back in. All right. There you are, Dr. Rowe.
We got some internet problems. What we may need to do, James, is if I lose you, I can call you, and we could talk through the phone and not actually be on the screen if we have to. But let's hope that my internet will last. Okay.
Yeah, let's go for the internet working because I'm not hooked up to the phone right now. in case my kids call. Oh, and I see Dr. Rowe's internet is frozen. There he is. He's coming back. There you are. Go ahead, Dr. Rowe.
Okay, well, let me know if you're not hearing me. But anyway, what we're going to talk about today is not so much the things to slow decline, but I'm going to talk to most of the people who have at least heard the word dialysis mentioned by one of your caregivers, one of your doctors, one of your kidney doctors. You need to know about whether or not going on dialysis makes any sense, because a lot of people, and that's
all right. We got a little freeze there from Dr. Rowe. Let's give it a second. I know what he's about to say because we've talked about this many times about dialysis not starting it too early. And sometimes people are told, hey, you need to go on dialysis and it's way too early. Also, for some people, benefits are not good of going on dialysis, especially if you're older, because it will not be a good quality of life. Okay, while he is trying to reconnect, let me bring up both of us on the screen. So at least you're not looking at a blank screen. You can see my face, my joyful, smiling face here. Let's see what happens with Dr. Rowe. While we're waiting for him, I'm going to take your guys' questions while we are waiting. Let's see, Wisconsin Grandma, a regular of ours. Great to see you there. Are there any more supplements that are more important than others? Supplements is a huge thing. Supplements should always be recommended by your healthcare team, either your doctor or your dietitian. And supplements are to fill a gap, a deficiency in your diet. And you're not getting enough something. So if you're not getting enough vitamin D, which is common when kidney function gets really low, your doctor may give you a D3 supplement or recommend one. Fiber is another common one. Sometimes we need some iron, especially when late stage 4 or stage 5. Here comes Dr. Rowe. All right, Rowe. Doctor, we're back.
All right. And what I may try to do is I may try to use my phone as a hotspot if this Wi-Fi gets messed up again.
Sounds good.
Yeah, so okay. So hang on. I just moved. Let me get my notes.
Right. All right. Well, I'm going to finish what I was chatting about while you're setting that up. But with supplements, only what your doctor recommends. There is no, take this special flower from the east side of some mountain in Chile or something like that that's going to restore, cure, flush, anything like that. You take supplements only when your doctor or your dietitian says you need it, and those are just to address some deficiencies, and you stop them once you don't need them anymore, because taking too much, even if something that you did need at one point, is not good for you. All right, Doc, are you ready?
We're back. Okay. So one of the reasons I wrote the book is that far too many people are starting dialysis when they don't need to. Okay. And you guys and girls heard about the stages of kidney disease. CKD5 is called kidney failure. And what's the eGFR for CKD5, James? You remember?
Under 15.
Right. That does not mean you need to go on dialysis just because you're under 15. As a matter of fact, my research has shown that potentially the best time for people to start dialysis is when your level is below 5. eGFR is below 5. And we're going to go through this in an organized way. We're kind of a little bit late to start, but let's go ahead and get into it. So many people, like James is a good example. James is, I guess we'll call him CKD4, which is eGFR 15 to 30. People could be in that category, and James is one, for many years. And lots of docs, when you're in that CKD4, they go, oh, let's go ahead and get you ready for dialysis. and they get you operated on to put a fistula in way too early, okay? Now, and the thing that people don't realize is dialysis is not going to make you feel like $1 million. Dialysis is not fun. Dialysis is only something that you should do if you really need to. And and in many countries outside of the U.S. and the Western Europe, they're starting people at much lower kidney function levels. Like in Asia, for a long time, you couldn't get permission to start a patient on dialysis unless you were below 5. Okay? And in this country, we've been putting people on above 15. Insane. And that is true. James is absolutely right.
It's a moneymaker.
It is a massive industry, and realize that there's a lot of bias to put people on dialysis because that's where the money is. And there's very, very, very few people that start when it's emergent. And we're going to get into the best time to start, when you really have to start, and what would be good reasons to start. And when I came to South Carolina in 1979, there were just a handful of dialysis units. And now, and I'm sure most of you experience this, you got them on just about every corner.
Yeah, they're like a McDonald's practically.
And look, I'm not saying that no one needs dialysis. Clearly, if you have no kidney function, you have to have dialysis or you can't survive. But the question is, how much kidney function do you need to survive? And what does the dialysis machine add to your existing kidney function? Okay, so let's kind of talk about that for a minute. James has, let's say, 20% of his kidney function. I'll just throw out a number, right? And let's say that you went down to 15. And I said, okay, James, you got 15. I want to put you on a machine to give you some more. It makes no sense because the machine cannot do anything like your own kidneys. Even 5% of your own kidney function has benefits that have been shown scientifically over and over again that are much better than the fanciest dialysis machine that you can ever give anybody. So the only time you need to go on dialysis is when you have a good reason, and we're going to get into that. And not to be going on dialysis just because of a number, of your eGFR number. And what is eGFR, James?
That is your estimated, that being the most important word in there, glomerular filtration rate. It estimates, usually by measuring creatinine, which is not a bad thing. It's just a marker they use, how well your kidneys are working.
Yeah, we're going to get into that estimate, I think, the next talk, but I will just mention here that in patients that are very sick, have little muscle mass, they've been in the hospital a good deal, they're not doing well, their GFR number may not be accurate. So there are certain situations where you may need to do different kinds of measures of kidney function, including what James did years ago, I guess, collecting 24-hour urine to get an actual measurement of your kidney function. And I could tell you how to do that in our next talk. But if there's debate about where your kidney function really is, I suggest getting that actual measurement by collecting 24-hour urine. We don't do that very much.
And for everyone who saw me laugh, those that do not know my story, I was working in the office when I did that, and you store it in the fridge. You know, a big label, do not drink or touch. And people don't realize you're going there to get it, to take it to the washroom, to add to it and bring it back. That's why I laugh, because it's hilarious.
Lemonade, a big thing of lemonade. Okay. The issue of starting dialysis is a very different decision process if you're an older person like me, I happen to be 78. If you're in your late 70s, 80s, 90s, there's many, many different considerations. And if you're a younger person like James, he's pretty young. So it's got to be dealt with differently. There's something called the competitive risk of death. What am I talking about, James? Do you know? Especially for an older person.
I'm going to guess this is where you balance it. Is it going to help you, going to not help you, or are you going to die of something else sooner instead?
You hit it. You hit it. So there are lots of patients that I have seen that should never have been put on dialysis because they didn't need it, number one. I mean, they could survive with their existing kidney function. But also, they had other things that were life-threatening, not their kidney function. So there's actually something in the book that you could take if you're someone in your 70s, 80s, 90s, and there's a discussion about whether you're going to potentially die of another reason in the next year or two, or should you consider dialysis? There is a chapter in the book where that's discussed. And I would take that information and take my book, if your doctor is talking about dialysis, and look at all the information I give you and say, hey, doc, this is what the research says. This is what this book says. And this guy is one of the main people to do the basic research. Why do you want to put me on dialysis? Don't just accept someone saying, you need to go on because this is your number. Okay. The other thing about older folks is your kidney function declines faster or slower than younger people, James?
I'm going to guess fast because, well, it's 1 point per year on average, correct?
That's a normal person, right? Normal people lose about 1 point per year. And that's why when you get to be my age, having a CKD3A, which is 45 to 60, roughly eGFR, yep, is probably normal because you lost, it's appropriate to lose that much kidney function. But the rate of loss for people that go on dialysis is significantly higher. But do older people lose it faster than younger people?
I'm going to guess no.
Exactly. They lose it slowly. They lose their kidney function more slowly. And it's also unusual for older folks to have what in their urine, which is the big predictor of how fast your kidney function declines, James.
Protein.
They have their and we guys and girls who've been listening to the show, the albumin to creatinine ratio. You folks should know that. It's a measure that goes to the lab. They take your urine. They measure the albumin creatinine ratio. It's the best way to get an estimate of how much protein you're putting out. So older folks don't have much protein. They lose kidney function slower. All right. The other thing is, and this is in my book, one of the things, he's my poster child for my book, was a sweet man, veteran. I took care of veterans, 87 years old. He had 4 operations. His upper and lower arm on both sides, he had operations to get an access where they take the blood from your arm, put it through the machine, and put it back into you. And he didn't need any of those surgeries because he wasn't ready to go on dialysis. And I told him that. I said, Mr. So-and-so, I've been looking at your labs now for the last couple of years. You're stable. Your kidney function hasn't changed. It's low. I mean, you got about 10% or roughly thereabouts, but it's stable. You don't need to worry. Anyway, I lost track of him because he was admitted to the local hospital and they put him on a machine. But I followed him for a year, James. A year in my clinic, he did fine. Anyway, you don't want to be one of those people that are being rushed to go on dialysis. And here's the deal. There's alternatives to dialysis. It's called conservative therapy. And I'm addressing this to the older population. Now, you may be like, thank God, I am a very healthy 78-year-old. God forbid my kidneys failed I would theoretically be eligible, or it would be reasonable to consider everything: dialysis, transplant, blah, blah, all that usual stuff. But if you are a typical 80, 90 plus year old person, you've already got other health issues, especially if you're unable to walk on your own, especially if you're very low weight, you have little muscle left. The research shows that your survival is probably going to be longer with conservative management. What is conservative management? It means we take care of your anemia so you don't feel bad from having a low blood count. We take care of your fluids. We give you the water pills and diuretics to get rid of fluids. Keep your potassium under control. And, you know, as long as you're feeling okay, you don't need to go on a machine. Okay. My general advice is delay until you have a good reason to start. And many people who start dialysis, they regret it. There is a honeymoon period. When you start dialysis, it's not unusual for people to feel better. And then they realize, oh man, I got to be doing this 3 times a week for the rest of my life. Then it hits you. It's just not something to do unless you really have to. Okay. And the other thing that you are, I highly recommend, and I have one, and I hope, James, you get one too, have an advanced
directive. Yep.
Advanced directive, right. You want to know, if I am unconscious, do I want to be put on a breathing machine? Do I want to be put on a dialysis machine or not? And that's what you need to let your family know, what your desires are. Now, the research that I did in my paper was voted the #1 game changer in my field in 2011. And we basically showed that, and this is not going to be for everybody, but if you can, waiting till you're below 5 is probably going to give you the longest survival. Okay. Now,
and the best quality of life.
Best quality of life. And yeah, quality of life off dialysis is definitely better than it is when you're on dialysis. Now, the other thing that happens very commonly, especially with older folks, is they have a reversible severe decline of kidney function. Their GFR is somewhere between 5 and 10, or somewhere in that neighborhood. It was 30, now it's 5 or 10. What could do that, James? And this is not uncommon. People just wind up in the hospital.
Could be dehydration, could be medication you're taking.
Big ones.
Blood pressure too low.
Good. Yep.
Yeah, it's not guaranteed that it's really your kidneys shutting down.
Right. Well, the thing is, the business of medicine, the business of dialysis, is such that there's no incentive to look for recovery of your kidneys. There just isn't any incentive. Too many people get started on chronic dialysis and nobody looks back. So if you have had, a GFR in the 30s, and then you get hospitalized and it goes down to 10 or 5 to 10, say, hey, doc, can my kidneys recover? Let's make sure they recover before we go on and commit this, long-term dialysis thing. Because it's not uncommon for kidneys to come back to where they were. They're not going to come back to normal because you didn't have normal kidneys. But if you've already got, like James, if James gets diarrhea or vomiting and gets a flu, he may easily knock off his kidney function to 10 or less. But he needs to wait, he needs to be treated for the acute illness, he needs to get fluids put in, stabilize his blood pressure, and then decide, does he really need it at that point. And as James said earlier, people tend to overtreat their blood pressure. You can undertreat it, which is bad, but you can also overtreat it. And my suggestion to my patients, my friends is, hey, if you're on blood pressure medicine and you're feeling weak or dizzy, check your blood pressure. Don't take your medicine until you check it. If it's running on the low side, hold the medicine. Mm-hmm. If you're running in the 100 to 110 range and you take your medicine, you may drop down to 90 or below. So it's fine to hold a dose of medicine if you are running a low blood pressure. And as James said, there's drugs that can cause the reversible decline, especially the NSAIDs, the Motrin, the Advil, the Aleve, big ones. Especially if you're dehydrated, you're out there. If any of you are experiencing severe heat and dehydration, likely you can get your kidneys to show a decline in function. Very easy. If you've already got some kidney damage and you get yourself dehydrated, easily to get your kidney function to drop 50%. Scary. And if you combine that with taking things like, Motrin or ibuprofen or a good bit of that, it can really knock your kidneys down. And sometimes other drugs can do it, like antibiotics, and some people actually taking these things like Prilosec, the PPIs, the proton pump inhibitors, omeprazole, Nexium. They also have been shown to knock your kidney function down. What about men? What's a common situation for men, James, when they come in and their GFR looks like it's 5 to 10? What could be their issue?
Am I correct? I'm reaching way back in my memory. Could it be prostate issues?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Very common. Very common. And it comes up on men, without them knowing it. They just not pass as much urine. And then they go in and they wind up having a really big bladder, and it's full of urine. And you slowly let the urine out and the kidneys come back. And I've seen that many, many, many times. So now we've talked about how way, way too many people, especially in the US, sometimes in Canada, not as bad in the UK, because I've done research with colleagues in the UK, in Australia, New Zealand. I've done it in Taiwan and mainland China. I've done work with all of doctors in all of these countries. And other countries tend to start at much lower levels, and guess what? They get better results. Mm-hmm. They get better results. And there's a lot to compare the results in terms of, number of staff in a dialysis unit to patient, all that stuff. But I think part of it is starting too early. Now,
well, the one thing the numbers don't really show is that quality of life. They got to continue living without getting up early, trekking into a dialysis center, hooking it to the machine. They're exhausted, going back, resting 3 or more days a week. They got to not have that inconvenience, which to me is huge.
It's huge. And James, and we're going to get into some of the alternatives, but you say more than 3 days a week. I had a close friend who was put on, the local dialysis people put him on what they call continuous home dialysis, dialyzing him not 3 days a week, but 5. And without going into all the details, there's very little evidence that benefits. So don't fall for that. I'll mention it right away now anyway. My preference is, when you have to go on dialysis, think about home peritoneal dialysis. I think that is by far the easiest on your heart, the easiest on your kidneys. It will help you keep your remaining kidney function, which I told you is critical It has enormous benefits, even if it's just 3 or 4 or 5 cc's of function. Major benefits. So that is the kind of dialysis that I would consider, which is something you could do low tech at home. Okay, so when do you even think about when should your doctor be correctly considering putting you on dialysis? You got some thoughts on that, James?
Yeah, I would say either you have a serious risk factor, or and they can no longer keep up with things. You're getting fluid on your heart because they can't, the medication is no longer controlling the fluid, things like that. That's what I would say.
Well, okay, so I would say that your first reason is called intractable edema. Intractable meaning, or intractable fluid overload. Okay. Now, getting back to the older folks, unfortunately, as we age, heart failure is extremely common. When we get to be in our 80s and 90s, a large percentage of us, our heart gets weaker. When we have the combination of a weak heart and kidneys that are not working so good, that can cause fluid to accumulate, and it may get difficult to breathe. So what do we do? I have treated people like that without dialysis using combinations of water pills, sometimes intravenous. It's called diuretics. Now, it's a lot easier for your doctor to say, okay, we'll just put you on a machine 3 times a week. But at least ask the doctor, can we try managing this intractable fluid problem with diuretics, including intravenous diuretics? Would you consider that? Okay. So that's one, James. Now, James was talking about something which I think he was a little confused about. You're saying something around the heart. There's something called pericarditis, big word, and it's rare. I can't even remember the last case I saw. I mean, I've seen a handful of them in my career, because it only happens when you're way down with very little kidney function left. It's around the heart. There's an inflammation of the lining around the heart, and that's a clear indication to go on a machine. Rare, though. Again, these emergencies are just extremely rare. Now, if somebody is having trouble breathing from heart failure and you can't get the fluids off, I guess that could be considered an emergency. And the question is, how long can you be maintained with dialysis to manage the fluids? Because it's really not the fluids, it's the heart. And you got to get the maximum cardiology involvement to maximize your pump function. The other one, which is also pretty unusual, is potassium. Okay, extremely high potassiums that you can't control with diet, or there's now 3 medicines to lower potassium. And I've had patients on the old medicine called Kxalate, which is very cheap, and there's 2 others now. There's Valtessa and Lokelma. They're called Peritoneal and Zirconium. So there's things to bind potassium to keep the potassium from getting dangerously high. And just as an aside, and we've talked about this many times in terms of diet, you don't need to restrict potassium, and you should be on a plant-based high potassium diet for most of you when you have until you have very late kidney problems, when your GFR generally is at least below 30 and probably below 15. Then you need a dietitian to help you with lower potassium foods. So that would be another reason that you'd be justified to go on dialysis. What are some other reasons that you would agree to go on dialysis, James? If your doctor,
if you told me I really needed to.
but I hope you're going to question it. You're going to question it.
but with you, if you, because I trust you. If my
No.
doctor said it,
No,
I would
I'm not your
question him for sure.
If your doctor, your local doctor, your local kidney doctor says, James, I want to put you on dialysis, what's your next question?
Well, it's first going to be why? Why do I need dialysis?
Exactly. Okay. And the question is, what is it that you can't control medically without a machine?
Yeah,
That's got to be the
because once
top
they say
question.
why, I want to know why can't we do this with medication,
Yeah.
diet, or do I need to start walking more? Tell me.
Yeah. What is it that you can't manage without the machine? And if he says, okay, your potassium, we can't get it down, we can't control your fluids, and there are situations where people have really bad appetite and they have vomiting, and there's no other good reason for that. And they feel better when they go on dialysis. Their appetite improves. So that is another situation where I would say that's reasonable. Okay. But if you are a younger person, okay, first of all, if you're an older person, don't agree to have that thing put in your arm to go on hemodialysis, the blood type of dialysis. If you've got really good veins, and they map veins today, and you're in good health, and you know you're going to wind up on dialysis, go ahead and get that fistula put in. But if you are not in great health and you don't have good veins, I wouldn't rush to do the surgery. On the other hand, if you're a younger person, and James' age or younger, and you're in that 30 below, and you're getting 15, certainly when you're 20, 15, 20, it's not unreasonable if you've got good veins to go ahead and get the fistula put in your arm, okay? You're putting the fistula in, and you're saving which arm, James?
You save your dominant arm.
Non-dominant. You want your dominant arm to be available to eat and stuff.
Right. You're not putting it in your dominant arm. You're saving it. You're putting it in the non-dominant. Correct?
Yes. Putting it in the non-dominant.
I still want to be able to write and eat and all that stuff.
You're saving. You're not letting people stick your non-dominant arm. So if you're right-handed, it'll be your left arm, because you want to use your right arm for whatever you're doing while you're on the machine, taking a phone call, eating your whatever. And try not to let them stick needles in that non-dominant arm. And if you got good veins and you're a younger person, getting a fistula early rather than later makes good sense, because they get better with time. But older folks, you're going to wind up having multiple surgeries, and that's not fun, for sure. And if you're a younger person, you want to get on the transplant list as soon as you can. And in the US, it's been agreed that you can start accumulating time, which puts you at a higher level on the list at 20. You can start getting on the list when you're at 20. And this is a good thing for the latest equation now. They took race out of the equation. I don't know if James heard about any of that. But if you are African American, taking the race out of the equation actually gives you a lower number. You get on the list earlier. So
that's good. That's actually good to think about now. Yeah.
The only good thing about this new, which I don't agree with, by the way, taking race out of the equation. I think it's a long conversation. For younger folks, certainly when you're CKD 4 or 5, less than 30, you got to get educated. You need to know all the modalities: the home dialysis, the in-center dialysis, the cadaver transplant, the living-related transplants. And again, my preference, which I highly recommend, is home peritoneal dialysis. And if you are lucky enough to have donors, kidney donors, a preemptive transplant, you know what that means, James?
Yep, you get it before your kidneys fail.
Before you go on dialysis. Yeah. No, and that's okay. So you just brought up an interesting point.
And actually, fail is a bad word, because 15 is not failure, just because they label it that.
Right. Well, so this is a very controversial area, James, because a lot of transplant centers. First of all, let me back up. Most of you are not in places where there's a nearby transplant center, and unfortunately, you have to be your own advocate and push to get a kidney transplant, because most areas, they got plenty of chronic dialysis, but they don't have kidney transplant facilities. So you need to push to get on the transplant list. And preemptive transplants these days, they're doing it at over 15. And I personally don't agree with that. I think if you're going to get a transplant, you don't want to be taking the drugs that you have to take to keep the transplant from rejecting longer than you need to. And if you're getting a kidney from a relative or a friend, you don't want them to be getting surgery sooner than they need it. So I would at least wait till around 10, 5 to 10, but that's not what's happening in a lot of the world. And organize your potential donors. If you, especially a young person, just get everybody talking about who's willing. You'll be surprised who might be willing to get you a kidney. And remember, you're going to have to be your own advocate for not going on dialysis too soon and for getting on a transplant. And we look like we got a lot of questions here, James.
Oh, we do. This is a great night for questions. And I actually want to jump to one of them right away. There were a lot of questions about losartan.
Okay.
And Lay, her recent question is, she read that losartan drops kidney function. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, well, we've talked about this issue, which is very important. And there are drugs, and we say them almost every time I get on the show, that can slow decline of kidney function, especially if you've got a lot of protein in the urine. And the types of drugs, James, hit it.
Oh, this is a good one. They are called ACEs and ARBs. They end in TAN or PRIL. And the best part is they're extremely common and, wait for it, highly affordable. That's what I love the most about them. They're so cheap.
Yeah. So, these drugs, in the short run, can cause a drop in your kidney function. It is expected. And we talked about this, I think, last time, if you go back to my last talk. But it's expected that you'll have some decline. And what the kidney docs have decided is if it's less than 30%, that's a lot. That's not to stop the ACE or the ARB. My approach is a little different. I say if you got a good bit of protein, and listen to the talks on proteinuria to figure out what's significant. I mean, it's basically significantly over 1+ on the dipstick, a 2+ or more on dipstick, or outside of the U.S. Over 20, the albumin creatinine. In the U.S. over 200. I would say that's significant amount of protein. Over 20 outside the U.S. In the U.S. over 200. Those people, it's worth taking the risk of letting that GFR go down short term. If, on the other hand, you don't have much protein in the urine and the GFR went down a lot, I'm not sure that I would press it. But these drugs have been shown to not only slow decline of kidney function, but they protect you from the common cause of death in kidney patients, which is heart attacks and strokes and heart failure. So staying on the ACEs or ARBs are important. And the other new drugs, the SGLT2s, right? They also do the same thing. And the GLP-1s. They all can give you an initial decline, but over the longer haul, it slows the decline, especially if you got a good bit of protein in the urine.
Yeah, and I have an appointment about 3 weeks from now with my new nephrologist, since taking that SGLT2 dropped me from 35 to 22. My last labs have me at 29, so I've almost gotten back to where I was. I'm glad for that. But my doctor wanted me to go back to a nephrologist since I was under 30. I was going so long over 30. I was thrilled.
Well, but again, that makes no sense because 30 is not a real number. It's 30 plus or minus 10 to 20%. These are not actual numbers. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But James, so what happened? So James, you want to let them know? So James was on an SGLT2.
Mm-hmm.
Which one did you want? Which one?
I was on. I still have the bottle here because my doctor made me stop taking them. I was on Jardiance 10 milligrams. Took it for almost a month, got labs, and it was 22. My doctor called me and said, stop taking them right away. We're going to get you new labs in a couple days. I think I went on a Wednesday after I stopped taking them, got labs. I was still at 22, or it might have been 25. I think I was 25 then. Then I got labs again after about 2 more weeks, I think, and I was at 29.
Yeah, the point is it's reversible. The decline is reversible. And my advice to James is one of the luckier people in that he doesn't have protein in the urine. So pushing these drugs hard for someone who had that large a drop and didn't have protein in the urine, I would not be as aggressive as I would if you did have a lot of protein in the urine. I would still persist to give you that. So if you are one of these people that has significant protein in the urine, you should be on the ACE or an ARB and one of the SGLT2s. Okay.
And how much ACE or ARB, Doc?
What's that?
How much ACE or ARB should I be taking? Remember, you always talk about the dose that the person should be on.
Well, I mean, they're all different. Every drug has a different maximum dose, but the general theme is you want to be on the max dose of either an ACE or an ARB. If you got protein in the urine to slow decline, then the next thing
that's what I was looking for. Max dose.
Right. Max dose of either one of those. You could look those up easily for the particular ACE or ARB you're on, and then you move on to the SGLT2. That's and then for some people they'll take one of the GLP-1s, the weight loss drugs as well. All right, let's see. I'll start from the bottom here, James, and you can start from the top. So someone says I don't have the courage to take SGL. Well, look, these drugs, listen to, I think that was our last talk, James, right?
It was last month.
Listen to my talk with James last month. The drugs have lots of good benefit, real great benefits. Number one, if you got protein in the urine, it's been shown they can slow your decline. Big deal, very big deal. But I'd say even more importantly, anyone with advanced CKD, the common causes of death is cardiovascular, heart attacks and strokes, and heart failure. And these drugs have been shown to decrease your risk there too. So the ACEs and the ARBs will help you live longer, and so will the SGLT2s. Tim is good. Tim is taking the irbesartan, right, which is a TAN, which is an ARB, and he's on dapagliflozin. Great.
Hey,
I think Tim,
I recognize that one.
Right on. I think that's great. So somebody in Wisconsin says their doctor said they can't get on weight loss because I don't have diabetes. Well, look, the GLP-1 drugs, the weight loss medications, the insurance carriers are scrambling to figure out who they should pay for those drugs. If you have diabetes, you're in the clear to get it. If you have and it's going to depend on the insurance carrier. My thinking is you could try to push it if you got CKD, because that would be another theoretical reason. Or you've got high blood pressure, or you've got some other problem related to your obesity. But yeah, that's going to be an insurance issue.
Yeah, that's one of the things I can't get my insurance to cover. I was hoping they would. I got my doctor to prescribe it for me, but it ended up being with insurance over $500 a month. And I was like, no, but I keep an eye on these other ones that are coming out soon that they're testing that are looking good. And I'm hoping the prices will go down in the fairly near future.
They will go down. And I know there are some pharmacies that compound it, and it's cheaper. They make it compounded. And there's lots of other options. You just need to look out there. And I know my son-in-law, I think, gets it from Canada. I mean, there's lots of options besides paying $1,000 a month. I think the cheapest I've seen is a couple $100 a month if you've got to pay for it. Okay, well, this one is Amy. Your particular situation is way too complicated for tonight's conversation. Anything about why the nurses will put the patient past the line? What is KT? You know about the KT?
I don't know what she's referring to.
Okay, I don't know what it is. Okay. No, losartan is not the same as the irbesartan. They're two different ARBs. Lee had took Jardiance and also had a drop in GFR. And again, Lee, if your GFR, well, first of all, the numbers above 60 are really unreliable. So the 74 and 64, I'm not sure where the real number is. And the 52 may be where you really are at. So all of those numbers may be the same. So I'm not so sure that the GFR dropped as a result of being on the SGLT2, the Jardiance. If you don't have a lot of protein in the urine and it doesn't look like this drug is helping your kidney number, you might not want to take it.
Hey, what if someone's blood pressure is too low? What should they be doing?
Okay, well, first of all, if your blood pressure, now all of these drugs we're talking about, the ACEs, the ARBs, and the SGLT2s, can cause a decrease in blood pressure. And as you may remember, James, from the last talk about the SGLT2s, when you start them, you're losing glucose and water in the urine. They keep the kidney from reabsorbing the sugar. And that sugar water gets you a little bit dehydrated and can lower your blood pressure, right? But if you have very low blood pressure and you're not on any of these blood pressure lowering drugs, there's a good chance that you may be having a weak heart. So you probably need to find out what your cardiac function is, because low blood pressure without blood pressure drugs can be due to heart failure. Let's see.
Oh, they explained what the KT is. K for clearance multiplied by T time is a whole formula.
Okay.
You recognize it.
Of course I do. Look, let me try to make this simple because this is very complicated. As kidney doctors, we try to give numbers to the efficiency of the dialysis process. And we use those KT numbers, okay? It's the kidney, T is the time, K is the thing that you're using. It's called the dialyzer, where the blood runs through. Any of you have been in a dialysis unit, you've seen those things with those fibers in it. Anyway, so the long and the short of it is we have not been able to demonstrate that having a higher KT, more efficient dialysis, gives you more benefits, which is really sad. And that's why I say your own kidney function, we've been able to demonstrate over and over again, will give you benefits. But no matter how fancy we make our machines, it doesn't seem to give you much of a benefit. And somebody's talking about transplants. If they fail, you go on dialysis again. And one of the things about preemptive transplant is that the longest survival is for people who get a preemptive kidney transplant and have never gone on dialysis, actually. All right. Someone's requiring dialysis. Okay, well, years of listening. I'm sorry about that. And hopefully, I don't know, you don't talk about what type of dialysis, but, if you can, somebody else above you, this is on peritoneal. And, yep, someone gave me a fistula. I'm only on dialysis for 6 months. I'm waiting for another. Oh, okay. We're just looking at no questions here.
Yep. Here's one from early, right? It was when you got disconnected.
Okay.
One of our longtime regulars, Wisconsin Grandma, asked, are there supplements that are more important than others for kidney disease? And I kind of gave my thoughts on supplements, which is only take what your doctor or healthcare, what your healthcare team says you need, and only take them when you need them. They're to kind of compensate for deficiencies. It's not a magical cure.
The National Kidney Foundation has a article on supplements, which I totally agree with. They say do not take them. Do not take them. Because these supplements are not regulated. The only thing that you might want to take, and I think James takes one of these, there is a kidney vitamin, which I wouldn't be opposed to, a Nephrovite. But other than that, these supplements are not regulated. Yeah, they're not regulated, and I am against any of these supplements because you don't know what's in them. They may have heavy metals in them. They may have potassium in them. Not a good idea. I would not take them. Doctor had surgery. My GFR dropped by 20. Can the GFR come back after surgery? Okay. And this is a good point because a lot of people that are hospitalized are going to have drops in their blood pressure. Now, whether the surgery itself had anything to do with it, I don't know. You could have had a drop of blood pressure during surgery. But again, it's looking at the recovery period, making sure that you're getting proper amounts of fluids, blood loss has been replaced. So yeah, post-operatively, it's not uncommon. Or just being hospitalized, a lot of people are sick and their kidney function will often go down when they get in the hospital. Anyway, yeah, I think an ACE or an ARB are good for most people, even without proteinuria. Let's see, should I worry about my creatinine? Don't worry about it if it's 1.28, yeah. Yeah, yeah. You see anything else you want me to answer? Yeah, I'm why people are against SGLT2s. I mean, they're good drugs. Like I said, they have good cardiac benefits. They have good kidney benefits. There could be some problems when you initially start them with drops in blood pressure. You've got to be careful that you don't have too much sugar around your genitals because it can cause infections. But otherwise, they've been very safe. They're very good.
Yeah, I'm looking at all the old messages when we first started. And I think you've got most of them answered.
Someone's 39, stage 5 kidney failure out of nowhere. Man need dialysis up to 5 years. The problem is I feel fine. Okay, Jay, you're 39 years old. Get a doctor to follow you carefully. Assess your amount of protein in the urine. Assess whether you should be on ACE or ARB, SGLT2 or GLP-1, and get close follow-up. And don't rush into dialysis. Be prepared. Get yourself an AV fistula. It's a good thing to have backup if you ever need a machine as an emergency. And consider lining up people for transplant, being 39 years old. And consider peritoneal, whole peritoneal, if you need to go on dialysis. before you get a.
And he had another comment where he mentioned his protein levels are high.
Yeah. Well, you are a patient that needs a lot of attention by a good kidney doctor to get all of the things that can slow decline of kidney function. And we've talked about that in many of these prior talks.
All right. And we are at the top of the hour, Doc. That went by really quick, but we got a lot of stuff covered.
I'm glad I wasn't totally off the internet for the whole time. That wasn't looking good there for a while.
The new location in the house worked great.
Yeah, I don't know why. It could be that's there's a problem out there. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I want to remind everyone again of your book because it is a great book. His book is called Learn the Facts About Kidney Disease. Lots of great information available as an ebook, as print, and also now, brand new this month, as an audiobook. So you can sit back in your car and listen to an easy to understand and kind of soothing voice read his book, which is an amazing book. It makes it so easy to know what matters, what you don't need to be worrying about. Also, he talks about when to start dialysis, which we have talked about tonight, to help make sure you're not going to get started on it too early. All right, Doc, thank you so much for your time. Like Val says, she has the book. Yay! This is the last scheduled broadcast for this month. I think I have Jen next Tuesday for the Ask Me Anything with the Renal Dietitian. So I will see all of you in July and have a great 4th of July weekend that's coming right up. And stay hydrated with all of this heat. We got to stay cool and we have to stay hydrated. Everyone needs to be hydrated, especially us kidney patients. All right, Doc, thank you so much. And I'll talk to all of you in the next video.